Hello, and welcome to the Herondale Boy Support Group podcast. I'm Ginny,
I'm Allie.
I'm Melanie.
and we're here to help.
What?
And look at me making it through an intro.
Ginny
This is
did
gross.
So
it!
proud of you.
This is
You did
gross.
it.
I did have to think about each of the words for a minute, just because if I say it too fast, it'll just turn into
How many?
Ginny, you did it. I'm so proud of
Words.
you.
Thank you so much. I'm proud of me too. I was like, this time, this is the one.
Little victories.
Exactly. Oh,
So how has everybody been?
Persevering.
yeah, that's a good word for it. The horrors persist, but so
must I.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Listen,
Yeah.
the world is just out here, and we're just, we're trying.
Living in it.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's a lot, Yeah, persisting. Persevering.
Nevertheless, it's like an inspirational bookmark. Nevertheless, she persisted.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's a whole thing. But
Not much going on here. I feel like the same as you guys. Persisting.
Some weeks just be like that.
It's true.
Some more than weeks just be like that too, months. It happens.
Years.
Years.
Lifetimes.
It is almost the end of February.
We're
making
making
it
that
through.
happen.
I don't
that's some
know.
bullshit.
February.
And February is a short
so
month,
fast.
so.
That's
is.
true. It is one day longer than it was last year.
Mm-hmm.
It is. Is anyone gonna do a little hop, skip, jump on the 29th?
Hop, skip, jump. True.
I'll keep you posted.
Yeah.
We'll be going out of town.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah, we will.
technically for
We
leap
will.
day to
No,
celebrate.
we're not celebrating leap year by going out of town.
What are
We're
you
leaping out
here
of a window plane.
I go nowhere. I don't go vacation.
Yeah. We're going to the rodeo. Yeehaw.
We are.
Ginny's gonna see the yeehaws in person.
Ginny gets to live her
Maybe.
best horse girl life.
Exactly.
Imagine if we got to feed them warm bread mash.
No.
That'd be great.
No! Not the warm bread mash.
Warm bread mash. Woo!
I was scrolling on Instagram, and it was somebody feeding their horse. It was like the horse got a little too I made their wet food a little too wet, and I was just like, I bet it's warm bread mash. Will?
Triggered.
Back on that
Sorry.
Herondale bullshit, right?
Herondale bullshit. We had a lot of Herondale bullshit.
It's just the Herondale's
Shepherd's
world, and they're all living in it here.
Exactly.
Why do you think it's called the Herondale Boy Support Group?
Because you wouldn't
It
let
is
us
a
call it the
Herondale.
Herondale hose.
That's true.
Excuse me, no, I did not. Whatever.
that's a thing.
We're not
Wait.
going to put this on me.
It's funny because it's true.
It's true.
The more you know. The original draft of this podcast was called the Herondale Hose. And Melanie was
And
like,
as is
no.
our group, what is that called? What is the three-way text chat between us called?
I know the group chat is now Herondale
The group
Hose
chat is
in
now Herondale
tribute,
Hose.
however. Let it be known.
It was a thing.
They're always going to find a way to blame me for something.
Yeah, that's what makes it fun.
Why do I hang out with you?
Because you love me.
Because you love us
Do I?
so much.
Yeah.
Do I like
so
Ginny, but Allie, sometimes I wonder.
Rude. The audacity. Formal petition to remove Melanie from the support group.
Oh, boy.
Shots fired.
Okay, then you do the summary.
Well, you see, there was an
Charles
asshole named Charles
Buford.
Buford. And he caused a lot of problems. And then we're gonna have a wedding. The end.
Everyone give it up for Allie. Clearly you don't know me. Oh god. Bye.
Welcome. Bye, Melanie. Oh, there she goes. Oh, goodbye.
Goodbye, Melody.
Oh, there she is. She's back.
Melody retires.
I let it be known that there is proof that Allie is mean to me.
Yeah, a little bit.
There's
It's
proof
fine.
in several podcasts, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
And I
Anyway,
did nothing to warrant it.
would you like to amend my summary, Melanie?
I don't know what I do. Will I do a sufficient enough job for you?
Remains to be seen.
Well, let's get started with this summary that I'm sure is going to be much better than Allie's. As Matthew and Cordelia wait on the other side of the archway, the rope jerks Matthew forward. He is dragged forward and smashes into the barrier over and over again. Cordelia grabs hold of the rope, unsheaths Cortana, and slashes through the barrier. She's in the Shadow Realm now. James is both surprised and relieved to see Cordelia. She urges James to return with her, but he insists that he can't. The reunion is interrupted, however, by the Manticore demon. James focuses, and the Shadow Realm is now under his control. He uses it against Belial and the Manticore. The demon vanishes, and James lets go. Before he can help Cordelia, Belial steps in front of James. He taunts James, and again tries to persuade him to let him use his body as a vessel. Cordelia, though, stabs through Belial, and the Prince of Hell dissolves into pieces, and the world crumbles around them. Jesse and Lucy arrive at Highgate Cemetery and find Matthew unconscious. Lucy rushes over to Matthew, and Jesse reassures her that he's alive. After drawing an Arazi on him, Lucy asks Matthew where James is. Then the sky tears open, and Cordelia and James fall through the opening. Cordelia struggles but gets up. James does not. Matthew tries to draw Arazis, but they aren't working. James is dying. Jesse tells Lucy to give James his last breath. Lucy hesitates, but takes the locket and gives James the last breath. James's chest rises with Jesse's last breath, and the poison leaves his body. When he wakes, James can now see Jesse. Thanks to the antidote working, things are returning to normal, and the quarantine has been lifted. Days pass as James recovers. He receives many visitors, including Grace, who asks to speak to him alone. Grace tells him that Tatiana has plans to kill herself tonight, which would cause a spelled automaton to come to life and kill all Shadowhunters. James insists that they have to tell someone, but suddenly something silver and cold closes around his wrist. Lucy has asked Brother Jeremiah, Gemariah, to take her to the graveyard in Idris. She goes to Jesse's grave and says she wishes she could tell him she was sorry for using her power on him. Jesse appears, but he's different than he was before. Lucy can't touch him, and he's more ghost-like. She promises him that she will find a way to bring him back. James wakes and sees Grace standing by the window. She asks if he will help her destroy the automaton, and James says that loyalty binds him and that he would do anything for her. Matthew and Cordelia appear, surprised at James's sudden personality change. Seeing no other choice, Matthew and Cordelia help James. Matthew opens up the portal for James to travel to Blackthorn Manor. James destroys the automaton, but it catches fire and sets the manor alight. It burns down, and James, Matthew, and Cordelia all agree not to say anything. The next day, everyone is gathered for the Enclave meeting. Tatiana interrupts, insisting that James conspired with the demons to orchestrate everything that's happened. She angrily accuses James of burning down Blackthorn Manor, and that Grace will confirm this story. Grace begins to speak, but Cordelia steps in, saying that James couldn't have done it because he was with her in her bedroom all night. The room erupts into chaos when suddenly Charlotte Fairchild marches into the room. She explains that she was late because she had to investigate the fire at Blackthorn Manor. Tatiana repeats her accusation, but Charlotte confronts her about the items they found associated with black magic and necromancy. Magnus stands and confirms Charlotte's findings, speaking of what he witnessed when Tatiana tried to hire him to help bring Jesse back. James pulls Cordelia into the drawing room and tells her to go back and tell everyone she was lying to protect him. However, Cordelia says that even if she did, no one will believe her. The stain on her reputation is there, and there's no taking it back. James has one last idea to save Cordelia from ruin. Getting on one knee in front of her, he asks her to marry him. It will be a marriage of friendship, a convenience, as James says he doesn't love her in that way and claims she doesn't love him that way either. Tatiana has been escorted to Chiswick House by her brothers. Asking for a moment alone to say goodbye, she goes to where she has hidden Jesse's coffin. A voice comes from behind her and tells her not to worry. It's Belial. He won't let any harm come to Jesse, as the Prince of Hell says that what Jesse carries is too precious. She questions him, asking why she should believe him when he let her get infected with the poison, as it was only to be her enemies that were harmed. But he reassures her that it is all part of the plan. Once Tatiana is escorted into the Adamant Citadel, they will destroy Shadowhunters from the inside.
Dun dun dun.
Good
that?
summary. Good summary.
What's my grade, Allie? What's my grade?
A-.
Take it. What happened? It's the end of the book, so a lot happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting because this book wraps up in a way that gives it, until the epilogue, it gives it kind of an ending, but it's just not the ending that our main character, from Cordelia's eyes, she's just like, it is what I wanted, but it's not what I expected. And
yeah,
all these things, and the thing is, they don't know right now either. We get the epilogue so that we know what's going to happen next, but they all think that Belial is gone.
Yeah, they're like, all right, it's over. That was a fun time.
Tatiana will be arrested. Everything's fine.
Exactly. Little do they know it's all part of some greater plot and scheme.
I mean, that would be too easy. We gotta have 2 more books.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah.
There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Anybody have anywhere they want to start?
Yeah, I was going to say, speaking of the fact that they thought that Belial was dead, it's because James used some creepy... It's a little scary. He uses his powers or whatever in the demon realm, right, to kind of collapse it in on itself, destroy the Manticore, and then we get Cordelia coming in with Cortana, and they believe that Belial is dead because of Cordelia, going all badass and just stabbing him.
She does a little stabby stab.
She does do a little stabby stab.
I mean...
And yeah, because Cortana is a special sword because it's crafted by Waylon the Smith, which can cut through anything, which we learned by her being able to go into the portal. And then, we do see that Belial is injured, but he... And
isn't dead.
Because of his injury, they think that it'll take 100 years for him to respawn in the mortal world and, have the energy. But he says that he has an anchor here, which will allow him to come back before that time.
So. I mean, I was thinking when Cordelia stabbed him, I was like, yeah, that's not gonna last. That's too easy. So
it's too convenient.
Obviously.
We're in book 1.
It is too convenient. But they don't know that.
I was like, there were a lot of things that happened that I was like, why is this wrapping up? This is too easy.
Exactly.
That meta knowledge, though.
Right. But that's what I was saying. It feels, the end of this book feels such a wrap up, and we just, as readers, we know better, because we know that it's a trilogy.
Right.
And then we get the epilogue that the other characters don't see. But this whole stabby stab. Although it's funny because they end up telling the parents actually some of it, and then I think, I don't remember who it is, but they're like, oh well, he's probably dead for 100 years. We'll worry about it then. It sounds like the next generation's problem.
Who said that? I thought it was Magnus who said that, but I could be wrong.
I'm not sure.
I don't remember who said it either, but yeah. But I was like, surprise, bitch, I got an anchor.
Speaking of, really quickly, I want to say, speaking of everything that happened in Shadow Realm, and then James and Cordelia, falling from the sky, how did both of them not die from that? We know James almost dies, but how does Cordelia get out of that with just a broken leg?
Plot armor.
Yeah. I mean,
it would make sense. I could forgive it if James fell first and she fell on top of him, kind of thing.
Oh, scandalous.
I mean, possibly.
But that's not what happened. I'm like, they should both be dead.
Herondale bullshit.
But it's Carstairs bullshit now.
Yeah. Listen, maybe being up in the sky, it wasn't all the way up in the sky. Maybe it was 10 feet up. Maybe it was...
It was 10 feet, but how is that not,
I mean, 10 feet, that wouldn't kill you. Yeah. That's like falling off a one-story roof. It'll probably
I think,
well,
James is also, because he used a bunch of powers and stuff.
Yeah, James
has got a weak constitution.
I just thought that Cordelia should have also almost been dead.
I mean, possibly, but...
Well, like James was saying, James had that, immense exertion of energy And
I guess
then
I think I was more just like thinking the distance was larger than it was.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't think it was that far for some reason. Oh, but can we
they
talk
mention
about...
it's 10 feet, but I was just thinking that it was
does it
like...
say 10 feet?
I think it
No,
does,
I don't
but I think
remember.
I was just imagining 10 feet to be more than it is.
I don't know. But can we talk about when Cordelia goes into the realm, right? And then James is like, what? And then all the, Daisy, my Daisy, and blah, blah, blah. Oh, Daisy, Angel, this and that. I was just like,
And
what?
he tries to, like, his instinct is to go and protect her and, like, comfort her and shield her, and I'm like...
But Cordelia is saving his ass.
Yes.
We love a girl who is no damsel in distress.
We do. I love Cordelia as a heroine for those reasons. You know, like which, you know, objectively all of our Shadowhunters ladies kick a certain degree of ass by nature of being Shadowhunters. But Cordelia hits different. I like her. I think she's cool.
Yeah. That Cordelia is positioned as a main heroine, which we got Cecily in the last trilogy, and we got Charlotte, but they weren't, you know, it was very trio. It was Tessa, Will, Jem.
Right.
No, yeah.
So while Charlotte and Sophie and Cecily were all given a lot of attention, they were still kind of side characters, and Cordelia is main.
Tessa was capable.
Yeah.
But
not a Shadowhunter.
She was also in need of protecting because everybody was out to get her.
Yep.
That too.
Whereas Cordelia is more...
She's a
I
born
don't know
and
what the
bred
word is
Shadowhunter.
for it. Yes, but I was thinking of a specific word for it, and I can't think of it. More just like taking actions rather than reactions, I guess.
More proactive.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah.
I like her a lot.
Yeah. So plot-wise, we had that. And then, obviously, one of the things that happens when James is in recovery is that when Grace visits, what does she do? Slaps that bracelet right back on his wrist. And what happens? James is like, oh yes, Grace. I love Grace.
So,
nice.
if you guys remember, and obviously you weren't going to confirm or deny this, I clocked that bracelet. I was like, something's wrong with that bracelet. There is something going on. It's like a cuff, like, you know.
It's a handcuff.
Yeah.
Literally and figuratively.
That's what it's literally like a handcuff. He
and
can't take it off.
Binds is a little on the nose, don't you think?
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
I was like, I was like, when I was looking at, I was trying to look up what the bracelet said because I knew it said something, but I didn't write it down and I couldn't remember what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sure it had been mentioned, but I couldn't. So I looked it up and I was like, oh, it literally says loyalty bounds me. Okay, perfect.
Mm-hmm. It does.
And so I was like, because I remember I looked at my notes and I was like, well, James was able to take it off. But I was like, I wonder if that was only because Cordelia asked him to.
He was only able to take it off because Grace asked him to.
That's what I mean.
Or Grace took it off herself. Yes. It is one of the two.
That's
I don't remember which one it was.
I wrote it down as Grace asked him to take it off.
Yeah.
So I literally, like,
part
this
two.
bracelet.
Go ahead, Jenny.
So I was saying that the interesting part too is there's something about this bracelet, where it's somebody's. I'm trying to find the exact thing, because it's something about like this bracelet specifically. Like it's his, like she says something weird about like his chain has to bind you, or like. Yeah, okay.
I can try looking it up.
But your blood, his blood, is a barrier I cannot cut. I cannot bind you without his chain. And I was like, who's?
Ooh.
Which, it could be Belial.
I think it is, yeah.
In this context again. But like at that time, I was just like, who?
Because
yeah.
I think either I wrote this down or I remembered it. Yeah, because Belial says something about when James was in the Shadow Realm, he wasn't wearing the bracelet.
Yes. Yeah.
And
yeah,
so
that hadn't been revealed to us yet, so at that point I was just like...
He was
after that,
protected.
It makes sense.
And
so clearly, Belial and this bracelet have some sort of connection.
They do. And interesting how Grace always compares herself to her mother's blade. And then she says that your blood, his blood, is something I can't cut through. So she can't reach James. We know that she intrinsically has like this weird magic enthrallment capability, right? But interesting that she can't use her powers on James unless he's wearing this bracelet, which seems to override that and give her power over him.
Yeah.
Which would also be kind of what happened when Grace was forcing Matthew to kiss her.
Exactly.
A couple
it's
of
her
chapters ago.
regular enthrallment, because Matthew wasn't wearing the bracelet. She could just do that to him. And be like, you're gonna kiss me. And then Matthew was like, huh?
I don't like Grace, but also I am trying to understand that I don't think she's acting. I think she's partially acting of her own, free will, but also under pressure. So it's like
there's an
We
abuse
probably
situation
see
there.
her in fear of Tatiana to some extent, trying to do things so that Tatiana can't get to her or can't, have more influence over her.
I think
Exactly. Like, in the end, she obviously knows, she knew when she sent James to take out the automaton that the house was going to set on fire. That's why she sent him. She knew that's what was going to happen. And then, when they're confronted, the Enclave, Tatiana calls her up and is like, Grace will say that James told her that he burned down the manor. And then Grace steps up and is ready to do this until Cordelia steps up and gives her an easy way out. So there is a fear of Tatiana, but she's shown that when she does make these choices of her own free will, that she wants freedom,
I think part of my, issue with Grace is I keep thinking back to the Bane Chronicles and her interaction with Magnus there.
Forgive that. Don't hurt Magnus. Don't look at him.
And how she was very clearly knew what she was doing and was angry. So
you also have to bear in mind that Grace has lived a very sheltered life. The only people she's had interaction with since being adopted as Tatiana's ward has been Tatiana and Jesse. So, her coming to London is kind of her first interaction with other Shadowhunters, other people her age. And so, when we see her in the Bane Chronicles, she hasn't had those experiences. So, everything that she knows has been fed to her directly through Tatiana, who we know is just like this well of poison, right? And so, it's interesting to kind of see her begin to grow and begin to see the world for the first time through this book. And I get the sense that she doesn't know what to do. I get the sense that she's trying a bunch of things, but also is still very much under the foot of her mother, and is just being pulled in several different directions and is,
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say, is that, like, she's, much as I don't like her right now, I get that it's a complex situation.
Yeah. There's a lot happening there.
Yeah. So this is kind of funny, So you mentioned that this bracelet, you think of it, you're like, it's a cuff, right? Like for some reason, I always pictured it as like this little charm bracelet. So, because when she's like, go steal this bracelet from me from my.
This is the friendship bracelet I got at the Eras store. I want you to have it.
I always pictured it as one of those like chunky, big bangles.
I pictured it really discreet because like people notice it but aren't like, what are you wearing, bro? Like, so I pictured it was really discreet but like a charm bracelet. But it's funny because, and then when you were like, Grace slaps a bracelet, I'm just like, man, but what if it was just one of those early 2000s snap bracelets?
Snap bracelets,
like,
yes. Oh my gosh, yes.
That would be amazing.
In my brain, it's like a thin, hinged bangle, but I like Jenny's charm bracelet idea. I have now it's like made out of embroidery thread and just has loyalty binds and chunky mismatched beads.
Well, it has to have enough, right? Like room for it to say loyalty binds me.
Yeah.
I can make that
right.
happen.
You're right. You're right. I guess that I thought in my brain that there were like some charms on it, and one of these charms had like an inscription on the back or something. But
I said, I always kind
it's
of
definitely, you're right, it's definitely gotta be like a little cuff.
Speaking of characters that had great character development, I want to talk about Alistair.
Yeah.
Good for him.
I am so proud of him. He said, "Not today, Charles Buford."
So there's a few instances here where Alistair finds his voice. You know, and sort of towards the beginning, Thomas... So they need the cure for the demon toxin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Christopher's done most of this work, but now Christopher's been struck by the demon poison, and it's a problem. So Thomas is like, I can finish it. I've been working with him on it. I can do this. But I need a place to do it. And so the place that has the laboratory is Henry's laboratory in the Fairchild house. And so Thomas goes and is like, I need to access the laboratory. And Charles is like, no, you cannot, because I am on the way to do important official clave business. Yes.
It's Charles Buford. Get it right.
Charles Buford, yeah. Was like, I have all this important clave business I must attend to in the stake of my mother. And
I can't babysit you.
Can't babysit you. With your useless tinkering and toys in the basement. And Thomas is like, but no, this is serious. I feel it. But guess who's there? Alistair. And he sees Thomas and he's like, I think he can do this. And is like, he's going to do it, Charles. And Charles is like, fine.
Fine. Then you can babysit him.
And Alistair's like, bitch, I will.
And then he's like, I could care less about you using the lab. I just want to know where my sister is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then he helps. He's like, you got 20 minutes. And I'll help, but then I gotta go figure out what the hell my sister's doing.
And then like I said, I'm so proud of him for standing up, I guess you could say, to Charles Buford and saying, I'm done being your secret. I'm done hiding. You either love me and are open about it, or we're done.
So that happens largely off screen, right? Because we get this context at the engagement party for James and Cordelia. That, so...
It doesn't happen off screen.
It happens a little both. Because the context that we're given is it's at James and Cordelia's engagement party. And Charles Buford is drunk, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
And he stands up and he's like, I just want to announce my engagement to Grace Blackthorne. And
he tries to take the credit for everything.
He does. He said that earlier at the Enclave meeting. We'll get to that in a minute. We're going a little bit out of order, but it's fine. And then James is just like, kick out the bench from under him, and then it's like, slam. And then Magnus is like, and now we're going to create this distraction. And everyone's like, yay. You just kind of ignore the fact that Charles is being a massive a-hole. But then Charles goes over to Alistair and is like, I want to talk. And then...
Alone. And Alistair's like, I'm bringing my sister.
Which I think is fucking hilarious, because that is the... So, like, just reading it the first time, like, I didn't clock it, but this time rereading it with, like, a more thorough lens, I'm just like, that is the funniest way for an author to get out of, I don't want to write from this character's point of view, because I don't want to give you insight to what this character is thinking. It's just drag along the character that has very little business in this scene, just to stand there and observe awkwardly. So I was just like... Which, like, blah, blah, take emotional support when you're dealing with the abusive ex-boyfriend asshole. But also, just, like, the fact that Cordelia is literally just being dragged into this private corner conversation with Alistair and Charles Buford. I thought it was funny. But Charles is like, you didn't mean what you said in your letter. Surely you couldn't have. So that's, like, his first stand.
Oh, okay, that's what you mean.
Yeah. And then this is kind of the fallout from that letter.
I forgot about the letter.
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't see the letter. Or no.
But God, do I want to.
Brings it up. Oh, man. I just wanted to see him rip it out there and Buford a new one in this letter.
Like, I respect that Charles Buford has ambitions. That's fine. But he's being a dick about it.
He's being a dick about it.
And Alistair is seeing that it's a pattern. He's broken off engagements with these different girls, or like he's gotten engaged to 2 different women now, and yeah.
I wrote down specifically what Alistair says. He says, "I have realized that you will never care half as much for me, or for anyone, as for your career." And I was like, drag him.
There it is. And I really like how he said something along the lines of, you can love me or you can have your career, you just can't have both.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like,
And I know we're going out of order, but since this is still connected to Alistair, what happens with Matthew and Thomas and Alistair?
crying, screaming,
Yeah.
throwing up.
So that's
Crying
the
in
other
a
half of it.
Not almost missing
Crying in
my
the
flight,
club.
because that's different. That's a different
Crying in the club.
Yes,
crying in the club. Exactly. He was crying in the club. That's the other half of it, is that even though Alistair is growing as a character, as a person,
He's trying.
He has a
made
lot
mistakes,
to atone for.
And he has to live up, or live with these things that he's done in his past now too.
Yeah, we get a little bit of insight as to why he was acting that way. In a Days Past sort of flashback with him and with Alistair and Cordelia. And he basically says it was either bully or be bullied. Yeah. And he chose to be the bully.
Yeah, which Cordelia is disappointed in at that moment. And you can tell that, like, Alistair's a little hurt by Cordelia's reaction. He's like, oh, well. Because he's like, wouldn't you do the same? And Cordelia's kind of like,
I would leave.
Yeah, I would come home. Says. And it's, yeah. And it's difficult to know that he was young, and young people are stupid and make stupid decisions for stupid reasons. But there's still very real hurt behind what you do. So there's still,
Thomas,
yeah. So he still has that responsibility to atone for it and to take responsibility for it, which is kind of the fallout we're beginning to see towards the end.
Yeah, it's like when they're confronting about, Matthew is going on about, this is what he said about us, and all this, and Alistair's like, it was just words, but yeah, but it meant it. It ended up turning into Matthew's fallout, and it ended up, yeah.
It directly led to the events of Cast Long Shadows.
Yeah,
of Matthew having
even
so
though
much doubt.
Just words.
They had real consequences. Like, Charlotte lost a pregnancy because of it, and was very ill for a while because Matthew heard the words, and
forever carry that guilt.
Exactly. Which,
and now
that's
Thomas...
not to say that Matthew's not culpable for his own actions. He absolutely is.
Right.
But there is still some atonement for, and some responsibility that Alistair needs to take.
When somebody says something that makes you doubt, that just creeps in and it stays.
And to know that he said these shitty things about Thomas, too. Like, yeah. And that hurts Thomas, because Thomas obviously has this big old disgusting crush on this person who he bonded with, that week in Paris or whatever. And he's always, like...
tried to believe that Alistair is...
Believe that he's good. And believe that he has these redeeming qualities, even when everyone else around him is like, no thanks.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Is that kind of character. Like, Thomas is a really nice guy. You can tell that from, he's loyal, he is...
Sweetest boy. Protect.
Sweet. Yeah, he is so nice, so that when you break his trust, it is well and over,
Mm-hmm.
Just the way that it reads, I was just like, man, he believed in Alistair so much. He's just trying to extend grace and all these things all the time, and you just get the sense he's that kind of person. He'll try and forgive people all the time, or try to think the best of them all the time, and then, but if you hurt him, then that's it.
Yeah,
you're done.
And Alistair may be done.
but hey, at least his hair is not blonde anymore.
Thank God.
Oh yeah. I didn't think about that, but it's true.
I have something important to attend to. My hair.
I didn't even think about that, but you guys are so right.
Yeah.
Thank God.
And somebody has a moment where they're like looking for Alistair when the Carstairs really comes in. They're like, oh, that's Alistair.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
He's embracing the fact that he's a Carstairs. And
He's embracing himself.
I remember I just keep thinking about how I hated him so much in Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy. Rightfully so.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I'm just like, he's trying. That's good character development.
Listen, no spoilers, but this series in particular has the best character development and character redemption arcs. Like, they are top tier. They're so good.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I love about this series being, you know, what the later ones is that the writing is just getting stronger, you know? And we have complex characters throughout the whole cast. It's not just one or two characters get the special treatment.
Exactly.
Of being fully thought out and fully developed.
If anybody have anything else they want to bring up? Or should we move on
there's
to
still
something
a
else?
lot to talk about in general, but I think
I meant
done ranting about
I meant
Charles Buford.
regarding.
Yeah.
I don't know.
wanna
Let's
talk about
talk
Charles
briefly
Buford.
about his behavior with the clave. Ugh, so they're having the enclave meeting, and then the way that this fool stands up there and is like, "As you may know, the antidote was crafted in my laboratory at Fairchild Square," and then
Fuck
pauses
off, Charles
for fucking
Buford.
applause. That
And I'm
doesn't
just like,
come. I'm
As
just like
if you almost didn't let him do it.
Exactly.
screaming.
Even
just
crying,
like-
throwing up, wanting to throw Charles Buford against the wall.
I just want to be sitting in the enclave meeting just so I can go boo.
I want to see
Just-
Charlotte rip into him so badly.
And his description of him in that moment is like he's dressed like stiffly formal in like a ruffled shirt or whatever. He's got like his hair slicked back, and I'm just like, this fucking poser.
He's trying way too hard, and I want to see Charlotte be like, "Who are you? What have you done with my sweet boy?
Who are you?
You are
We
not
were
my son."
so fucking excited for Charles Buford, and the fucker has the audacity
To be a
like
dick.
this. I know.
Ugh.
Which, speaking of Charlotte, she and Henry are back,
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah.
Come get
Someone
y'all
needed
sons.
to.
making a grand entrance like she deserves.
Both your sons need help. Deal with them, please.
They do.
Hmm.
But hopefully, with Charlotte back in town, we'll see a little less of Charles Buford. My mother. This that.
Mm.
Hopefully,
Not
I'm not that hopeful, but not holding my breath on it. But
Now
still,
that the actual head of Clave is back.
right? There should be less excuses for him to be stepping in and doing all this stuff on my mother's behalf.
Sit the fuck down, Charles Buford.
Ugh.
Anything else about Charles Buford aside from just Charles Buford?
That sums up like most of my notes.
That's all of our
Charles
notes all the
Buford
time.
and
As I texted you both this morning, I was like, the amount of times I have written in my notes, Charles Buford.
In all caps.
Exactly.
Underline, exclamation point.
It's only my notes once this time,
Ooh.
but it's still once.
I have it at least 2 or 3 times.
I think I have it
At
3.
least twice. I have it 3 times. 3 times.
Shaking my head.
Yeah, shaking my head.
Um,
Well, Charlotte comes in, which first of all, I love the detail. There's a moment where they talk about Charlotte comes in and her voice and volume is that of, you know, it's pitched louder because she's used to talking over men all the time. I was like,
Get him.
Queen.
ugh,
We
ugh.
stand.
Exactly. But she's also got some grays coming in her hair. Like, yeah, Charlotte, we stand Charlotte.
So does Will out here looking like a
Will
almost
does.
silver fox.
Mm-hmm. They're getting
Allie
older.
using any
our
excuse to
bits.
bring up Will.
Listen, he was good. He was good in these chapters. He was hilarious after.
Oh, speaking of, man, Will starts this meeting, right? Because he's the head of the institute, and he's starting to talk, and then Charles Buford steps in.
I
Like,
know. The
I'm like-
audacity.
yeah, and we
Charles
talked about, like,
Buford.
This man
like,
changed
Charles-
your diapers, fool.
yeah, Charles Buford is probably like 20-ish, like 20 to 25, I think is what we kind of determined.
Mhm.
And then Will over here is like 40 or something. Could you imagine? Like,
The audacity.
this little slick back-haired punk coming
You've
in
known
here.
him since he was an infant.
Since before he was an infant. Since when he was
Since the womb.
being created, I guess you would say. I don't know what. Yeah. Words.
Since conception.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah.
Since before personhood.
Yes.
Can't believe.
The audacity.
I just like to imagine Will rolling his eyes so hard.
And I feel like
Literally
if I
everyone
remember
else.
I think we get some flippancy re Charles Buford from Will in some context. I can't tell you the exact
Probably.
context, but I think we get a little bit of
Probably.
from Will.
Yeah. But anyways, I was saying that Charlotte comes in, with a great presence, but then she's talking about how the Blackthorn Manor has burned down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing that happened during this section. James decided that arson is always an option.
James didn't know that it was going to burn down to a crisp. James was told to take out this automaton, and then the automaton set fire. Which, again, my theory, which I pitched earlier in the guise of other things, is I think that that's what Grace and Tatiana knew was going to happen. I think that Tatiana told Grace to tell James to take out this automaton. And that, like, the whole lie about killing herself and then this was going to go. I think that was all a lie, because they knew that, and set it up in some way, that if the automaton was stricken, then the house would go up in flames. Because what that would also do is that would also get rid of all the evidence of all of the black magic and bullshit that Tatiana's been up to. So.
Well, they still found enough to, like, charge her.
Well, it's not my fault that Tatiana didn't think this plan all the way through, but I think that was the initial plan, and that it was not an accident. But anyway,
speaking of
arson is optional.
Yes. Speaking of Herondales and Blackthorns, Jesse gives James his last breath, which is a big deal.
That is a big deal.
We don't know much about the last breath, but we know it was somehow connected to bringing Jesse back, and now it seemed to have been connected to his more corporeal form, because after giving the last breath, he is more ghost-like, and Lucy can't, like, touch him.
Lucy out here dabbling in necromancy. It's fine. She will definitely face consequences.
Oh, yeah.
We don't see much of Jesse in these last couple of chapters.
Neither does Lucy.
It's true.
Are you done?
Listen, you can look unimpressed at me all you want, but I had a point anyway.
So yeah, it was a big deal, and now James can see Jesse. That's a thing.
I don't think he can permanently see Jesse. I think that he could see Jesse in that moment because he was close to death.
Oh, maybe. I thought it was because he had Jesse's breath.
Because Jesse's also spoken how, I forget who it was, but he knew that they were fine because they couldn't see him, and if they were closer to death,
it was Matthew.
They would have been able to see him.
I thought it was because James had Jesse's breath, but maybe it's what you said.
Jeannie, did you have anything else to say about the fire? I'm sorry. I feel like we tangent ripped that away.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't think so at the moment.
No. Okay. We got a fake marriage.
That's true. We have not talked at all about the James Cordelia nonsense here yet.
Which is kind of a big deal.
Yeah. I think it was. I posted on like our Instagram when this announcement, like, the end of the book in which the only solution is arranged marriage,
Which was funny because I hadn't finished reading the chapters yet, so I was like, I'm sorry, what?
That too bad.
When you spoil your own cast member.
Too bad. Yep.
Oh, I'm not complaining. I just thought it was funny.
Well, the other thing is, technically, Grace and Charles is also a sham marriage, like.
That's true.
But I had a
we didn't
feeling
do
that's not what you were talking about. But
yeah, we had James and Cordelia. Because, yeah, how this all comes about is they're sitting in the Enclave meeting, and Tatiana's like, James burned down my house. And then Will is obviously like, bullshit. And most of the Clave is like, sus. And then James is like, I didn't do it. And then Tatiana's like, well, Grace will prove that he did. And then Cordelia is like, oh shit, this can't happen. And she stands up and she's like, he was in my bedroom with me all night long.
And the entire, like, the audible gasp in the room.
She did something that she cannot take back.
Nope. And James is like,
But then the conversation they have after. The conversation they have after is just so heartbreaking because James is still under Grace's spell. And so he's like, I don't love you like that, and you don't love me like that, so it's fine.
And Cordelia's like,
Cordelia's like, you will never know.
Communication. And I think it's funny how they're like, well, we can't lie to all of our friends. It's like, well, so we'll tell all of our friends. So as we're going through the epilogue, we're finding out, like, every fucking character knows that this is a sham, except for, like, the adults. Because, like, Anna's like, this seems like some bullshit. And then Magnus is like, this seems like some bullshit. And then and then Grace is talking to Will and is like, this is some bullshit.
Anna also notices that Matthew, and she... or is it Lucy that talks to Matthew? Is it Anna that talks to Matthew? Somebody talks to Matthew about it, but Anna knows... Oh, it's Magnus. Sorry. Mm-hmm. But Anna also notices that Matthew is solemnly in the corner, and then Magnus talks to him about it.
Mm-hmm. Magnus is like, you good, bro? And then Matthew is not good. He's staring at James and Cordelia as they dance. Knowing
Matthew is in love with Cordelia.
It's about to
and
be...
Magnus has clocked it.
Some parabatite love triangle bullshit again. It's fine.
Okay, hot take. Matthew doesn't actually love Cordelia, but we can save that conversation for a later book when there's more to talk about on the budding. Cordelia and Matthew train. And I'll have more evidence by then to assert that Matthew does not truly love Cordelia.
That's fine.
But that is my hot take.
I could argue that I think what you might be getting at, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that kind of thing of Cordelia doesn't know him in the way of, like, doesn't know his past. Yep. So it's like the Tessa and Jem thing. Mm-hmm. She only knows him now and not his past, so she doesn't know the drink. I mean, she kind of does, but she doesn't know the drinking, all of that stuff. Like, he's able to present himself in
ideal terms and in ideal circumstances. Himself as he wishes he was.
Yes. And
not himself for the wholeness of his person. So.
I don't know if that's what you were getting at.
That's mostly it, yeah.
Can we also talk about the fact that he references the Will, Tessa, Jem love triangle? Like, Matthew makes some statement about, well, it'd be different if James actually loved her. And, like...
Oh, and then I would step away.
Then I would step away, like... And I was like, wow, you did not just say that, boy.
That is true. Please. If I had a nickel for every time that Will and or Jem said the same sentence.
It makes continuations to the fact that Tessa and Jem aren't aging and Will is, and I'm just like,
well, stop, you're getting old.
Why are you reminding us of this?
I still got beef with how that love triangle ended.
Well, Matthew spoke in a low voice. It would be one thing if James loved her. I would go into the quiet dark like Jem did and never speak of her again. But he would love her.
Oh, and like Jem did. Oh shit, I missed that. How did I miss that?
I was just like screaming.
Matthew speaking straight fire.
Screaming, crying.
Yeah, he said that.
Damn. Matthew is fucking savage. Boy can't stand up, but boy can throw down.
Boy is hurting because they also mentioned that he's drinking from his flask. And if he's drinking from his flask rather than a wine glass that's being provided at a party, he must really want to get drunk.
That's what Matthew says. Or not Matthew, Magnus says. Magnus is like, It's like, it's not He says something along the lines of, like, it's not uncommon or unexpected that a 17-year-old boy would be drunk at a party, but it becomes suspicious because he was also drunk the last time they had met, and he's not drinking from, what's provided, but he's brought his own drink to a party. And he's standing against the wall because he would not be able to stand up otherwise. And it's a devastating character portrait in a paragraph of just how far gone Matthew is.
Portrait of Matthew Fairchild.
Hold it up. Hold on.
Or the picture, I guess. Yeah, the picture of Matthew Fairchild. Oof.
Picture of Matthew Fairchild. Which Matthew does
Written
reference that book.
Magnus Payne. Exactly. He references it all the time.
He's like, I would like to have a picture of myself so I could go out and commit all this debauchery and, never age and never... I need to read that book. I have it.
Yeah, I checked it out from the library and I didn't read it.
It's free
I think I've done
on
it a few times.
I think.
I gotta find this. Hold on.
Yeah, so I think I have it downloaded, actually.
Nice.
And I think because Matthew references it a lot, it might give us might give us some insight on
probably
that.
One of the other main references in here is Great Expectations, one of the classic literature books, which is the James and Grace and Tatiana.
Okay,
that's the big reference there. I read Great Expectations and
as I'm trying to look for this thing that I'm looking for, Charles Buford at the engagement party is like, my brother's paradise has always been like a younger brother to me. Shut up, sit down.
Yeah.
No one likes Charles Buford's talk. They're all like, bullshit. But this book related to Great Expectations, I feel like Cassie Clare has written most of these trilogies to echo a classic story.
Oh, yeah.
Which, I know I had to ask you which one this one was. Because I don't think I've read many of the classics. I should. But.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of my goals, to read a couple, I think, this year. Great Expectations, I hated it when I had to read it in school. And I will say that Charles Dickens is really dense stuff. I would try to read it again with fresh eyes now, but I remember hating it so much. And not wanting anything to do with it. But I do like the refreshed kind of parallels here, that are happening here. And I appreciate that you can take tropes from classic literature and do stuff with it now.
Sorry.
Let us know in the comments what literature you had to read in high school that you fucking hated. For me, it was My Antonia. Fuck that book. And also,
which one?
My Antonia.
Never heard of that one.
And then Snow Falling on Cedars. Also, fuck that
Never
one.
heard of that one either.
Me neither.
I will have to post links to both of them, but it is terrible. Nothing happens in My Antonia ever, and then Snow Falling on Cedars spends like a whole paragraph and a half talking about a dead man's penis, and I'm just not sure I need that. So
mine was probably Catcher in the Rye.
I don't know if I had to read that one either. Huh.
Anyway, I found the passage I was looking for about Matthew drinking from his flask. It's actually Lucy who notices it.
I think multiple people notice him drinking from his flask.
Well,
I think that's kind of the thing. Oh, okay.
Specifically in this moment at this party. Okay. He was not drinking from he was drinking from the flask in his hand, which to Lucy was not a good sign. Usually at parties where spirits were provided, Matthew would be seen with a wine glass in his hand.
Oh.
If he were getting his drain of pale from his flask, he must be very determined indeed to be as drunk as possible.
Oof.
Oh yeah, I do remember that one too.
I just was specifically calling it out for this party, that he is not having a good time. But he really isn't ever, but,
No, he isn't.
Someone needs to just, hug him. And
I volunteer.
I
volunteer as tribute. I volunteer. I will hug Matthew Fairchild.
My son.
Yeah.
My
Cordelia notices a little interaction between Matthew and Lucy, how they look more comfortable now.
Mm-hmm.
And, more relaxed. And something has changed in this relationship here, but, it is better.
I feel
we know that Matthew has let go of his
childhood
crush on
infatuation.
Lucy.
Yeah.
He's like, we're hard riding into Cordelia.
For me, I feel like something changed at the portal at the cemetery when she was healing him. I don't know why, but I feel like that's when it changed.
Maybe.
Well, the thing was, he was angry for a minute because she called him out for drinking.
True.
And then maybe their next like real interaction was that moment.
So maybe that was the moment of like
about?
reconciliation after the anger.
Yeah.
So this might
Or
be
maybe
like
it
the
happened
second
off screen.
change that we've seen.
Could have.
Anyway.
Lots of changing dynamics.
Matthew. Oh, little Alexander Lightwood.
Yeah,
Was
baby.
shown here. Apparently, Matthew is his favorite uncle. It's very cute. And Matthew
And little Alexander is like, Oscar! And I'm like, I too would want to go to a party and see the puppy.
That's what I do when I go to parties. Is there an animal that I can pet? No, I don't
Literally.
want to talk to the people.
Oscar, my aunt and uncle's dog, was here because my parents were having people over for Super Bowl Sunday, and I was like, hi, I'm just here for the dog.
Yep.
Exactly.
He's a good boy.
I understand.
Oh.
Disappointing that Oscar Wilde couldn't come to the party. I feel like he would have been a great party guest. Could have given him a bow tie and everything.
Said it was not a dog party. Sad.
Any party is a dog party.
We've been lied to before when we were told it was not a dog party, and then we show up and then it was a dog party. And then Cordy was mad at us because it was a dog party and we told her she shouldn't come.
She's right. She was probably rightfully mad.
Yeah. For real, we were going to this thing, and then we told Cordy, we're like, you can't come. It's not a dog party. And then we got there, and there were like 3 dogs. And we were like, we lied to Cordy.
How dare you lie to the
That's
angel
sad.
that is Cordelia?
We didn't mean it. We didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, including a giant Bernese Mountain Dog puppy. Oh my god. So fucking cute. Anyway. Dog tangent.
Dog tangent.
Moral, I feel like, to summarize in a couple of sentences, James and Cordelia are in a fake engagement. Tatiana's crazy, but we already knew that.
We did.
Charles Buford is a dick, but we also already knew that. Alistair is growing.
Okay. And Will is so
Oh,
happy
more
to
to
have
come.
a Carstairs in the family.
Oh my gosh, Will.
I love that reaction. Sona, Will, and Tessa come into the drawing room after Cordelia and James and are ready to be like, I raised you better than that to sacrifice a lady's virtue. And then James is like, but before all that, my fiance. And everyone's
My
like,
promised wife.
Oh.
But then everybody's
nice.
kind of just... Sona in particular. Sona is just kind of like... Something about it. She's like... Not... She gives her blessing, but she doesn't seem super excited.
Yeah.
Because Cordelia is like, why are you not happy? I did what you wanted. I secured a good match.
Yeah.
A good marriage. But it could also be because Elias is going to be coming home.
That is true. That is another thing that's
New
happening.
plot twist. Yep.
And Will and Cordelia have a really sweet moment, actually, when they're dancing. Because, of course, Will has Cordelia dance at their engagement party. And he's like, it's so lovely to see you. And Cordelia's like, I know. We always wish that we could spend more time with you. And Will's like, well, now that you're in London, there'll be so many things. We can plan a celebration for your dad coming home. And then Cordelia's like,
And Will kind of
Will,
sees the tension.
And Will has this line where he says something along the lines of, when I was a child, I thought that my father was the greatest man that ever lived. And when I grew older and saw that he had turned to gambling and drink and like gambled away our whole home, I thought he was the worst man. And now that I'm a father myself, I see that he was just a man. And I'm just like, if that ain't the growing up experience, I don't know what is. I don't know how or when Will Herondale got therapy, but like, good for him, bro. Because that is a good take.
It is. Oh, it was so good. He's also like, wait till I tell Jem.
Wait till I tell
Carstairs.
Jem. There's a Carstairs.
He and Jem were brothers before, so they're basically already brothers again.
He's so excited.
He's so
But that
I love Will,
moment was really
but
sweet.
he needs to let Jemariah go.
He does. He won't, but he
He
needs
won't.
to. And Tessa out here like, you can't just compliment her because of her last name.
Will's like, I can.
I can't.
I know,
watch
Will.
me.
Oh, Will. Back on your own Herondale bullshit, too.
It's true. It continues. There is a line, because you had talked about too, Melody, how like Jem and Tessa haven't aged, and Will, but I think somebody makes an observation, it may have been Magnus or something, but there's like, well, how they haven't aged, but still Will seems younger than both of them because of that, like,
Oh yeah, I think that was
compared to
he still
seriousness
has,
or
like,
something.
the aura of a child or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might have been Cordelia, but yeah. Will
Tracks.
still got that youthful Herondale boy bullshit.
Indeed.
We know where
The thing
James
that should
gets it
kill
from.
them, theoretically, but they just live longer.
We know where
Shake
James and
about
Lucy
it.
get it from.
Indeed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But yeah, 2 weeks from now, new book,
Chain
Exciting.
of Iron.
Chain of Iron, book 2. Second books are usually my favorites in a trilogy, so I'm excited.
See, it is chunky, which means there's plenty of time for just beach episode.
Continue
I love beach episodes.
my first read of this series.
Yeah.
Yes.
It'll be chapters 1 through 8. That reading schedule is done. So if you're reading along with us, then have those chapters read. And it'll be fun. Lots more to talk about. See how this engagement goes. See what Tatiana is up to with Belial. And, all of this intrigue. And
Yeah.
scandal.
Have
See,
time to deal with more Herondale boy bullshit. As Matthew has said, the bank of patience is exhausted.
Yeah.
And
Isn't
yet,
that true?
and yet, the Herondale boy bullshit persists.
And so, while there is Herondale Boy bullshit, we, the Herondale Boy Support Group, shall be here.
We shall.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks from now. Goodbye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.